let's, we were talking about Jurassic World. Let's talk about which is the biggest movie domestically and of the year, and the third biggest movie of all time globally. But not everyone liked it. Now that we are in September, what were your favorite movies of this past summer movie season? Chris Kyle, go.
Well, this is going to sound so stupid because you just introed it that way, but Jurassic World was my favorite movie
of
this summer. I would say of this year so far, Ex Machina is still my #1 movie, but
same here.
Of the summer, I would say Jurassic World. It was a super fun ride, delivered on the things I wanted it to deliver on, and I think I got a little boy crush on Chris Pratt. I'm not going to lie. I'll just say that right here.
It didn't happen after last year's Guardians?
Well, no. I mean, that's where it germinated.
But now it's been constant.
Now,
it's red, and now I'm warm
now
with
his
love.
locker is just pictures.
I have so many Chris Pratt pictures in my locker.
You photoshopped like Chris Pratt's face in the Farrah Fawcett poster.
What's funny is there's no magazine that would cater to that now.
No.
Like the Teen Beat would not have Chris Pratt in there.
Isn't Tiger Beat still around? Or
Tiger Beat.
I think they are.
16 or one of those things.
If I knew that, wouldn't you be scared?
All right. Any other summer movies that you like besides Jurassic World?
I liked Avengers as well. If you count that, I mean, it's in the summer.
Yeah.
Right? I like that as
yes,
well.
Summer starts even though it opened in April in the UK.
But that was the
here in
first
America.
summer movie.
I would say to me those were the two movies that stood out the most for me this summer.
Okay.
And I know they had like both the big ticket items, but I like them both.
It is the summer. That's why.
Rogue Nation, Mission Impossible is my favorite summer movie. It's the one I've actually seen the most.
Oh wow, more than Marvel movies.
I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was, although I think my second is Ant-Man, which again I would say I'm surprised it's more than Age of Ultron, which I liked. I didn't, I thought it had some issues, but I didn't, dislike it. But I did think Ant-Man was a more entertaining movie. A movie that sort of delivered, but both Rogue Nation and Ant-Man, were the movies I had the most fun with. If we're talking about what do I look for in a summer movie, a classic summer movie, but Rogue Nation especially. I mean, the fact that it's the 5th movie in a series that's been around for 19 years, based on a TV show, and yet going so strong and just lots of great set pieces. I mean, I love that movie. The ad campaign was all around about the plane, which is the opening sequence, and then it's like, oh wait, we've got all this cool stuff we barely showed you.
Yeah,
there's the motorcycle.
Yeah, the motorcycle, the underwater part. I love those two. I don't want to dismiss Fury Road though. I loved it. It was probably a little overhyped to me, and again, that doesn't mean I hate it. I loved it. I think I went in my expectations maybe were a little higher because I saw it after a lot of other people. Still was great though.
I'm gonna change my answer now.
Oh God!
Because I thought that was I had that in spring in my mind for some reason, even though Avengers, whatever. But I put that over Avengers.
Okay. I'm also picking Fury Road. I did like Jurassic World.
I did too, by the way.
But I would have to say that I think there was something about Ant-Man that I found particularly charming because it was a smaller scale movie. I don't think it's the best of the Marvel movies. I think it's right there kind of in the middle. But I also really liked Rogue Nation. But I'm thinking also, there was some comedies too.
What about Spy in the mix?
Spy is great. I actually just saw Spy the other night again.
Inside Out. That's my other one.
Inside Out. Yes. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
man.
Fury Road and Inside Out.
Okay, now I'm changing my answer to
this is
Rogue Nation and Inside Out, because as much as I love Ant-Man, I would put Inside Out.
Let's do an easier thing now. Which movies this summer did you dislike the most? Mine is gonna be a weird answer because when I walked out of it, I was like, oh, it was okay. And then as soon as I immediately thought about it, it completely fell apart, and now I hate it, and that's Terminator Genisys.
Because remember you saw it after me, and you were like, I don't know, because I told you I didn't like it. To me, it's Fantastic Four. It's just easily as much, there was so much bad vibes going into that movie, and it delivered on them.
Expectations
it's such a dreary movie and such a slog. I think that's this worst thing about it. It's not even fun on a bad movie level, which is why I actually said after Fantastic Four, it kind of makes Terminator Genisys better in retrospect, only because Terminator Genisys moved. Not, wasn't a good movie, but it moved. So yeah, for me, it's got to be Fantastic Four. I mean, I think it's a shame because that was a movie I was rooting for that movie to be a surprise after all the bad stories behind the scenes.
It would have been nice.
Yeah, because there are movies that happen. You hear all those bad things behind the scenes, and then you're like, oh, but the movie
the first X-Men was
right, or even even more recently. World War Z was another one, or the Apes movie.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
I mean, Rise.
But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. So Fantastic Four is my least favorite.
How about you, Carl?
I haven't seen Fantastic Four, and I probably won't for a long time.
right.
But
until you're strapped in Clockwork Orange.
I would say I like this more than most people, but it was still the worst movie I saw this summer was Pixels.
I didn't see that.
See, we didn't see that. So you took one for the team.
It really wasn't like it. I honestly think it's one. Every year you have one movie where everybody just jumps on it and just is like attacks it. Even if it's just like, okay, this is pretty mediocre. And I think it was that movie, but there were some funny elements. It was a little bit lazy in places, but it wasn't good. And so I think it's probably in competition with things like Fantastic Four.
I think it's worth mentioning in passing, though, by the way, that because of China, we might get a Terminator Genisys sequel.
Yeah. Thank you. That's actually a very good point. I mean, there were already release dates announced, but let's face it, after it did really so.
Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 3 and 4 had release dates.
Yes, exactly. So did Sinister Six. So we thought we were going to get a Sinister Six. But it does, you're absolutely correct, the fact that it has been doing very well in China could be the only reason why that happens. So you can either thank or blame them, depending on your
I think I just read that it so far made $92 million in China, which is more than it made in the U.S. total, and it is bringing it over $400 million and just into that place, because we've had some sequels in the past year.
Well, we're getting Pacific Rim 2.
Pacific Rim 2 and Snow White and the Huntsman are both movies that were like right on that precipice. Neither of them did as great in the U.S. as they hoped. And then overseas, they both made around $400 million.
Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah.
That's another one.
But Terminator Genisys, it looks like...
That's why they keep cranking out the Resident Evil movies.
Specifically China, because I was just reading an article about how Terminator Genisys is now a bigger international hit than Mad Max, Fury Road. But Fury Road does not have a China release date. It may not even ever open there, because China is very specific about what they're even allowed to
There was also some interesting articles, and I think it was Forbes that had this about... why is Terminator Genisys considered a flop and Fury Road is considered a hit? And is it simply because the press liked Fury Road better?
Critical.
Because it's money-wise, it's not too far off from each other, but Fury Road, let's face it, I mean, that's the movie. It's still an underdog movie. You're still rooting for that one, and we don't know. We might not get that follow-up.
And it's worth considering the fact that at some level the studios are obviously going to pay attention to buzz. I mean, look back to when Batman Begins and Superman Returns, opening a year apart for Warner Brothers, both made about the same amount of money. Neither were as big as they wanted it to, but only one got a sequel, and I think that is because they're like, but people really liked Batman Begins. Way less people went to see it than we wanted, but they really liked it, whereas Superman Returns was way more polarizing. So, with Terminator Genisys, I mean, it's worth noting, there's no way Paramount hasn't heard the reaction. And I think that they would have to be like, okay, if we are doing a follow-up, we need to approach things differently.
It's going to just totally take place in China. They're just, they'll pull from their own Transformers playbook.
The big difference between those two movies, though, is that Mad Max was a much bigger hit domestically, but we are nearing that point where that matters less and less,
Well, we want to know what you guys think. What were your favorite and least favorite movies of this summer? Let us know in the comments below.